This is Sweetheart, Alabama, the podcast about the little herb shop in beautiful downtown Greenville, Alabama, where we discuss natural health you can do yourself, inspiring you to your own passion, and a little bit about the magic of living in the Camellia City. And now, here's your host, author, herbalist, and energy healer, Danan Whitten.
Hey, welcome to Season 1, Episode 1 of Sweetheart, Alabama. This is the podcast about the little herb shop in Greenville, Alabama, and so much more. Hey, I'm Danan, and today we're going to discuss the anti-cancer benefits of turkey tail mushroom. I'm going to dispel some of the controversy with energy healing and tell you a little bit about it. And then we're going to get to the true story of the 7 people who drowned just outside of town in 1939. And here's the thing, y'all. Was this an accident or was it murder? I'll be right back. Have you ever thought about starting a gratitude journal and then thought, well, I wouldn't know what to write about. I'm not quite sure how to do it or to stay motivated. Well, go over to dananwhitten.com and there is a link over there for a way that you can gratitude journal with me every day. I send you an email every single day that says, hey, good morning. You're wonderful. Let's gratitude journal together. It really is a lot of fun. It's $5 a month, and it just keeps you motivated and keeps you going to really reach your goals and to see how gratitude journaling can seriously change your life. I promise you'll love it. So go over to dananwhitten.com and check it out. Thanks. Hey, my name, as the ad said, is Danan Whitten, and I live in the most magical town in Alabama, Greenville, Alabama. I love my hometown, y'all. I came back here after being away for 30 years, and let me tell you, it was a long road to get back in so many ways. And one day I'm going to talk about all of that. But for this show, for episode 1, we're just going to have a little bit of fun. And so I really want to talk about a little bit about healing, supplements you can take yourself, things you can do yourself for your own natural health. And we're going to talk about energy healing because I know a lot of people don't understand it. And then I'm going to tell you some really crazy stories from this town. First of all, anytime I'm talking about natural health, I want you to know it's for entertainment value only. I am not giving medical advice. I am not a medical provider. Please talk to your doctor before you add any supplement into your personal medical regimen. Thank you. Turkey tail mushroom. I know you've seen it. A lot of people have seen this one. It's really the most prevalent mushroom that grows on trees in the United States, mostly hardwood. Sometimes it grows on pines as well. You have seen this mushroom. In fact, I might add a picture of this to our show notes so you can see. But if you Google turkey tail, you'd be like, oh yeah, I've seen that a bunch. But I want to introduce you to this mushroom as a supplement. So it is being used now for specific cancers. It may be called Trametes versicolor in scientific studies on this mushroom. That's its scientific name. It's being used for breast cancer, cervical and uterine cancer, gastric, stomach cancer, leukemia, liver, lung, and even prostate cancer. It is the most documented and studied medicinal mushroom in the world. It's actually already part of cancer treatments in Asia because there it's well documented as a chemoprotective substance. So if your doctor approves, it's great to take during regular cancer treatments. But, as always, you have to talk to your doctor. It's used to treat UTIs. It's actually very effective for people who can't seem to get rid of UTIs. So sometimes, when I have someone come into the shop and they're just having a problem just with a recurring UTI, I'll usually say, hey, maybe you should try turkey tail. Now, I like it as a liquid extract more than I like the pills, mostly because it's just easier to absorb and easier to take. Does it taste great? No.
It does not. Not everything's supposed to taste great. Sorry. Having said that, you can also take turkey tail directly off the tree and boil it to make a soup or to make a tea. Is that going to taste great? No. But really is healthy. I encourage you to do your research on turkey tail mushroom. There's so many great things about it, and it's a great way to start getting into that world of medicinal mushrooms. I'm not being paid to say this, but I do use Host Defense as my mushroom supplement company of choice. And the reason why is because they are growing everything in-house. They don't use a third-party grower at all. And they're also owned by Paul Stamets, who I consider to be the world's best and most famous mycologist. That's a person who studies mushrooms. And he is really, really concerned with how we use mushrooms, not only for medicinal health, but also to save the bees. He's worth looking up for sure. If you're interested in turkey tail mushroom, talk to your neighborhood herbalist about adding it. Talk to your doctor about adding it. Do your own research always, and I will add some links in the show notes for you of companies that I trust. So we'll be right back, and we're going to talk about energy healing. It's not evil.
Hi, this is Danan. I just want to remind you to follow us over at TikTok. The username is Sweetheart Alabama, and it's a little bit of a fun, kind of goofy TikTok page. But if you're over there, definitely add us and say hello. Thanks.
All right, yeah, if you've seen my TikTok, I just have fun and I get goofy over there. But because I have such a larger following over on TikTok, I really want to add a lot of stuff about this podcast over there to get more information out, get more people knowing about natural healing and also this energy healing. So what is it? A lot of times I will say Reiki or energy healing, and I mean the exact same thing. My training is in Usui Reiki. I have been doing it for 10 years now. It is an alternative healing modality. And I think when people first hear the word Reiki, they think it's going to be something like out of a sci-fi movie or evil. That it's all woo-woo, and not based in science at all. But the truth is that there are a lot of scientific studies out there that show the power of energy healing. Reiki is a Japanese word. It just means life force. And the use and the study of Reiki is all about how one person can aid another person in balancing their energy, their life force. If you think that's hokey, then you probably don't believe in the power of hugs either. So I promise you there's nothing evil about it. It is really just another healing modality like chiropractic care or acupuncture. So that's why I really want people to get educated on this, okay? When people are sometimes leery of it, they ask about what is the source? And I just think that is, I kind of know where they're coming from when they ask that. Sometimes people can be very afraid of things they don't know about and think that those things don't come from God. And I want to say this very lovingly, just to think that if you don't know about something, it must not be from God, is to think that you have an understanding of everything. I'm trying to be careful here. Everything about God already. And I think that's a pretty bold thing to think. But let me give you an analogy. Imagine not knowing anything about electricity at all. You've never seen it before. You've never seen electricity work at all. And you have a worldview that anything that you're not familiar with could be demonic. So somebody switches on a light switch and they say to you, look, now you can read in the dark. Your worldview may be, at first, fear of everything, right? because you already know everything that God can do. I need to watch myself here, y'all. So you might think, well, that's demonic. I see the people making that same kind of correlation with energy healing. I'm going to tell you right now that God has given all of us the power to help each other with the energy that is measurable, by the way, by science, in our lives. And you can measure the power of a hug and how it helps people. Loving people with your energy. And I just want you to know, we're going to talk about this a lot more. There are hospitals now that are incorporating Reiki in patient care. I want you to look those up if you're interested. If you don't care, it's no big deal. I do these energy healing sessions remotely, and that scares some people too. And I promise you, it is also measurable scientifically. And if you want to know more about that, or you want to get your own energy healing session, I am doing them only remotely now, not in person because I'm just too busy right now, but they are available remotely, and you can go to DenannWhitten.com to get your own. And I want to tell you, I would love to talk about it more. We're going to talk about it more because I feel that it really does help people, and I'm spreading out more in 2023 and telling people more about the things that can help them. And listen, we're going to come right back with the story of, God, you know what? I don't know how to transition. I'm not going to do an ad because I don't know how to transition from, hey, energy healing's great, dun, dun, dun. Now let's talk about how 7 people drown. I'm sorry. I need to come up with a better ad that would transition to that, and I don't know how to do it. So I'm going to tell you, this story has been in my life my whole entire life. And the reason why, and I never knew the details of it until just a couple of days ago. It's about something that happened way back in 1939. I had no idea what year it happened, but we would go across this bridge, and my whole life I knew it as 9 Mile Branch. It's just 9 miles outside of Greenville, which is why it's called that. And we'd go over that bridge, and, you know, my granddad or my dad would say, hey, a bunch of people drowned there one time. And I was thinking, I always thought, how? It's only a few feet deep. And I'm going to explain that. This story gets so crazy. All right, so prepare yourselves. It was 11 a.m. Sunday, January the 1st, 1939. 8 family members left Greenville, headed east just outside of town to Hornerville, Alabama, to spend the day at a family gathering, for New Year's Day. The weather reported for that day was sunny, about 50 degrees, no wind. It was a beautiful day. The roads were not slick. It should have been an easy drive down County Road 50. So here are the occupants of the car. Kendrick Thomas, the driver, and the husband of Edna Gertrude Thomas. She's 27. Her father, William Sexton, 56 years old. Her mother, Maddie Sexton, 46 years old. The daughter of William and Maddie Sexton, so that would have been Edna's sister, Gussie Lee Sexton, who's 20 years old. Their son, Emmett Ray Sexton, 16 years old. And then the grandchildren of William and Maddie Sexton, Bruce Cruz, who is 4 years old, and their other granddaughter, Sarah Elizabeth Davidson, 13 years old. So those are the 8 people in the car, okay? So when the family reaches 9 Mile Branch, which back then was called McCormick Branch, 9 miles east of town, the car they were in went off the bridge and into the water, and reportedly into a deeper hole. So the branch at that time was about 20 feet deep, but they're down in a deeper hole, and they said it was at least 22 feet deep at the time. And it is very strange. This branch, it's called a branch, runs north, by the way. And yes, it is very shallow now. I'm going to tell you why. It's very bizarre. So we don't know why the car went into the water, but Kendrick Thomas, the driver, managed to get out through a broken window. And here's a quote from the newspaper at the time. He fought his way to the surface and found that the rest of the occupants of the car had failed to escape. But y'all, someone did escape. And it is the saddest part of this story, and I'm going to get to that in a second. Let me just say that the paper reported that several hours later, when the car was taken from the water, 4 members of the party were found in the automobile, and then 3 others were found in the water later. So Kendrick Thomas walked from the accident over a mile to the home of W.M. Whidden. That happens to be my great-grandfather, Bill. This is in the Midway community. So Bill Whidden took him back to Greenville to organize a rescue party. And by the time this rescue party managed to pull the car up out of the water, over 3,000 people had shown up to assist or to watch. Most of them were watching. And they managed to get the car up at 4:15 that afternoon. So that was 5 hours later. It was reported that the crowd silent, and that there were just a few really key rescuers who worked to recover the car. To me, this rescue reminds me of those YouTube channels like Adventures with Purpose, where now they have advanced tools to find a submerged car. But the way they bring them up out of the water is the same as it was back then, with winches and heavy trucks. So let me talk about the rescuers for a minute. First of all, Alabama Power sent a heavy truck and a crew. Walter Taylor brought a log skidder. And now both of these trucks had winches, along with Greenville Motor Company wrecker. And they placed that one on top of the bridge directly over where the car was. So I'm thinking they triangulated these heavy trucks with winches to help pull this car up. The hard part, and we've seen this with the modern recovery efforts of vehicles under the water, was securing a cable to the car. Now this is, So several men go down into the cold water to try to secure it. One man, Judson Lewis, went down 3 times in the cold water. Okay, I can't imagine how hard this was back then. The water is super cold. They're trying to swim 22 feet down, without any kind of scuba gear, mind you, to secure this car. The heroism, of these guys, I just can't imagine. So it's reported that twice the hook slipped loose and once the chain broke. So it's agonizing at this point, right? So they had to try multiple times down in that. They had to dive down into that 22 feet of cold water to secure a chain to this car. I can't imagine. But here's our hero, a man named Willis Stokes, who worked for Alabama Mills, finally secured the chain. Now, let me backtrack a little bit. The father, Mr. Sexton, the wife of Thomas Kendrick, and another, I think the 20-year-old daughter, all 3 of those people worked at Alabama Mills. So these are people, first of all, all of these people in this car. And the man who finally secures the chain and the hook to the car is also an employee of Alabama Mills. Probably, of course, worked with those people. So, I'm sure it was not only physically difficult for him, but it really emotionally difficult for him. The crowd remained silent. Even when Mr. Stokes finally got the chain secured, and he almost collapsed, by the way, from staying under the water for too long. So he almost died from trying to save them. Total silence in the crowd. Mr. John R. Wood stayed in the water to make sure that the chains stayed connected to the wreckers that were slowly pulling the car up to the surface. Also by this time, A.L. Kelo helped from a boat he had brought and put into the branch. So they finally get this car up. And that's when they discover that only 4 of the bodies are in the car. And they are the parents, Mr. and Mrs. Sexton, and the 2 little grandchildren. So Bruce Cruz and Sarah Elizabeth Davidson. Bruce Cruz is 4, Sarah Elizabeth Davidson is 13. So the grandparents and the youngest grandchildren are the ones trapped in the car still. Were they in the back seat? I don't know how and where everyone was sitting, except for the driver, who we're going to talk about later, Kendrick Thomas. It's only then that they find the other 3 bodies in the water, some distance away. Here's where it gets weird. It's been reported to me by a couple of people that part of the lore of this story and the stories that are told about this is that Gussie, who was 20 at the time, she was actually found clinging under the water to one of the bridge posts. It's as if she tried to make it to the surface. We know 3 people were outside of the car. Now, did they drown trying to get away or did they wash away? We don't know. But this one, Gussie, age 20, who also worked at Alabama Mills, was holding on to the post, but she was under the water. So did she make it to the post and try to call for help and then died of exposure and sank? Did she drown while trying to hold on to the post and not? I don't know. Y'all, I cannot imagine finding her that way. Okay. So Dunklin Funeral Services, which is still around today, or the people who did the funeral. It was reported that the people of Greenville stood on Commerce Street with their heads bowed. They came out. When the funeral procession made it through town, out to their burial site, by the way, past the bridge and the branch where they died. So, and they were buried most of them were buried in Cool Springs Primitive Baptist Church in Crenshaw County. So they had to drive the people over the bridge where they drowned. I can't imagine. One of the dead, Miss Davidson, the 13-year-old granddaughter, was not buried with the rest of the family. She is buried at New Ebenezer Cemetery in Highland Home. There's a picture, though, of the funeral, the burial at Cool Springs Primitive Baptist Church in Crenshaw County, and 4,000 or 5,000 people attended that funeral. I have a picture of that, and I will put that in the show notes so you can go see that for yourself. It's eerie. It is one of the eeriest pictures I have ever seen, y'all. When I was asking about this case, though, I got a phone call from someone who told me that part of the family history about this story included the thought that Kendrick Thomas, the driver, did this on purpose. The reason why was that he was tired of family life. Didn't want to be married anymore. Did he do this? We'll never know, y'all. Did he hear the cries of the 3 people who escaped, who would be his wife, his 16-year-old brother-in-law, and his 20-year-old sister-in-law, the one found holding on to the post? I don't know. It was reported that he was dazed and confused, Or did he just walk away? So here's what's weird about all of this, y'all. I cannot find Kendrick Thomas in any historical records after 1939. I can't find his grave on Find a Grave. I don't know what happened to him. So, did he run away? Did he change? I don't know what happened to Kendrick Thomas. If anyone has any info on what happened to him, I would love for you to share it in the comments of wherever you're listening to this podcast. And maybe we can do an update about Kendrick Thomas, the driver, at some point. Okay, so let me tell you about McCormick Branch, now known as 9 Mile Branch. If you drive across that bridge, it's very shallow, and here's why. A year later, there was a terrible rain and flood, and silt came rushing down, like large amounts of silt from probably farmland in the flood, rushed and filled up 9 Mile Branch. Enough that it filled up almost 20 feet of it. Now, at any given time, you can walk across that branch. That's why when I was a kid, when my granddad or my dad would say people drown over there, I was like, why? How? How in the world could anybody drown in a few feet of water? It's because it was dangerously deep back then. Okay, there's the story. So let me tell you, here's a summary of our first show, Season 1, Episode 1. We've talked about turkey tail mushrooms, energy healing, and this mysterious drowning of 7 people. It could have been just an accident, or was it? I don't know. I want to thank you for listening. I would love to hear from you. I want to make this show better, so any of your ideas or comments are very welcome. And thank you so much for listening. See you next time.
Thank you for listening to Sweetheart, Alabama. To learn more about the show or about Danan, please visit sweetheartalabama.com or dananwhitten.com. This is CJ Clark speaking. You can follow me on TikTok and Instagram at CJ Clark 81. This has been Sweetheart, Alabama.